15 years down the road, Oyo Nyimba is no more the toddler king who could clutch onto the royal garment of his mother in an official ceremony. He has grown into a tall and confident king.
I've been ready since the day I was crowned, so yeah, I think it shouldn't be a problem for me.
It is these young people that Oyo wants to get close to when he finally runs his affairs.
I think education is a very important thing, especially for the youth. You know, with that we can ensure that Toro has a bright future.
The mountain expedition. As we embark on this premiere of the King Oyo Rwenzori mountain documentary, let us be ever mindful of our responsibility to protect and preserve our environment through reasonable tourism promotion, vibrant conservation initiatives, and unbridled sincere government support in which we can create a sustainable future for Toro Kingdom, Uganda, and the entire world.
To emphasize that culture is not static. It is alive, dynamic, and youthful.
In his remarks, Omukama Oyo implored the young generation to embrace their cultural heritage, blending it with innovation and entrepreneurship.
African youth are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but innovators, creators, and change makers.
Maybe.
All right, you are watching UBC TV, and it is Good Morning Uganda, the Friday edition. Welcome back from that moment with Brownie Ebal, the author of Law, Life and Laughter. On to the other author now of Our Temperaments. It's interesting, you know, people who always study temperaments and human personalities, in a way it's hard to have conversations with them because it feels like they're busy reading you as you're having conversations with them, so it's tricky. But at the end of the day, they help us understand who we are and traverse life in a better way. We do appreciate you for watching the show, but we do continue to commemorate the King Oyo who passed away yesterday. It's heartbreaking, it's sad, he's so young. From the time the news officially broke by the Toro Kingdom social media handles, I could not help but think about a lot. It's like every moment you're awakened to something new to think about in line with that. And now my heart goes out to the Queen Mother, Best Kemigisha. Words cannot even describe what she might feel, and no one can relate apart from her and the God who created her, who understand what she's going through. But we stand with you, Queen Mother, Best Kemigisha, in prayer, really in prayer, and just sending comfort as we mourn the King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, who passed away. Omukama aturize. Now let's get on to what we're supposed to talk about, and that is personalities. All right, we are with Dr. Semalulu Charles Keck. He's not new here when it comes to studying our personalities. It's what I was saying, that having conversations with him or people of his stature, it's like having conversations with someone who you know is really studying you in that moment. I will start by asking, and allow me to use it as a breaking of the ice. In that moment, are you reading us?
No.
Or are you also being as human as possible?
That's not professional. That's not professional. But generally, even when we choose not to read people, reading people is not bad, by the way.
Right.
But because at the end of the day, that's...
Well, it feels like you're judging.
No. That is something that you have in your mind. But each and every time a human being gets into a social setup, that's what they do. That's why you have eyes. Yeah. You know, so you start picking up sensory information.
It's like you're thinking, if she's sanguine, you're thinking, this one might be too much. I don't think I'll relate anymore.
Not
but you're welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again.
Yes, it's a pleasure always having you on the show. Dr. Semalulu Charles Keck. He is a specialist in personal development and leadership. But today in particular, because quite a number of us spend our time at work. If you think about it, we spend more time at work with workmates, our bosses, and colleagues more than we spend with our families, if you think about it. Yeah? And that's why today we're looking at that dark tetrad in the places of work, how to deal with a narcissist, a workmate who is a narcissist, how to deal with a workmate who is a Machiavellian, and how to deal with a workmate who's a sadist, and a workmate who's a psychopath. Yeah, how to deal with all of these characters that you meet in the place of work. And at the end of the day, business has to make sense because the economy has to economy. You get it? The money has to be made. And you can't keep on changing jobs because you're working with such people. No, you have to find a way of going around it. That's why we are with Dr. Charles Semalulu Cake to help us navigate this. Now, Doctor, let's start by defining all these terms. Who is a narcissist?
Yeah, narcissist, we are referring to a specific kind of character or personality trait that so much thrives on manipulation. Is an individual whose major game or his major goal in life is to manipulate. In other words, each and every person that they look at, each and every space that they get involved in, they're like, how can I use the best? How can I get the best from this kind of setup? So a narcissist is an individual that is set by a very, very high level of admiration. They want to be admired. They want to be on top of the game in each and every way. And most of these people, most of all these personalities that we're going to be talking about, their IQ is way beyond. That's why it is very hard for us to understand them. You know, because like we said, we talked about this last time, that in terms of IQ, human IQ, most of us are between 70 and 100. Now, the 4 personality traits or the dark tetrad that we're talking about, all of them are 120 and beyond. So they are smart people. Most of them, I mean, all the 4 traits are traits of smart people. So it's very hard for us to understand them. That's the most important part. So a narcissist is a person that thrives in an environment, but they always want to be admired. We call it grandiosity. Okay, they always want to be admired. They always want to be at the top of the game in each and every setup. So if they get into a workspace, if they get into any kind of environment that doesn't give them space to be on top, they will feel uncomfortable. If they don't really find a way to get to the top, they will design it themselves, given the fact that they are highly gifted people, profoundly gifted in terms of using, you know, their cognitive abilities. So it's basically a narcissist is a person that is self-centered, and all of what they pass through in life or in any kind of setup is to be the person that is highly respected in each and every space. Yeah, that's how they are driven.
And
they are driven by admiration.
They become controlling.
Yes, their manipulation in most cases, it is for their own benefit. Now, there's a relation between a narcissist and a Machiavellian.
All right, so now let's get to the Machiavellian. Who are they?
So the Machiavellian is known after Machiavelli. I don't know, those that have had a chance to study a little bit of political science or some books. There is a book that was written by a gentleman called Niccolo Machiavelli in 1400. He was an Italian political philosopher. This guy wanted to contest at various levels of politics, but he failed. Now, after failure, after the so many encounters that he came up with, he failed politically. Now, after failing politically, he was like, okay, I need to advise the king on how to attain and retain power. So he wrote a book called The Prince. Now, in this book called The Prince, Machiavelli talks about how the leader should take over power and how they could consolidate it. Now, all of what he so much advocates in this book, which was written back in the days in 1500, that is in Florence, France, he was so much advocating or advising the king on how to get the best from humanity. So a Machiavellian is a personality trait that was named after a gentleman called Machiavelli. Just in case you want to know a lot about him, you can look for a book. It's called The Prince. It was written in 1500. But basically, in this book, Niccolo Machiavelli believes that a human being has 2 motives. One is law, and then the other is force. He believes that human beings, we have a little bit of the animal structure in us. So he says that there is something that we use naturally, that is law. But there is also something that comes up to us, and that is what we call force. So it says that for any leader to manipulate or to take over leadership, they must be in a position to know when to use law, and they also must be in a position to know when to use force. And when using force, we must be in a position to learn from the animals. He studies 2 animals. He says any leader should be in a position to know how to use force like a lion or to be cunning like a fox. So in this very book, Machiavelli talks about how leaders can be in a position to consolidate themselves in a given kind of society at the top of their game. Now, in this book, The Prince, all the traits that we are talked about are some of the traits that Machiavellians have. So the highest level of manipulation, as far as the dark trait is concerned, is the Machiavellian.
So that means the narcissist and the Machiavellian are both manipulators. They are both manipulators, but a Machiavellian so much manipulates in the form of having power. Most especially in spaces where they always want to be admired as leaders, right? Now, a narcissist, in most cases, they want to be admired as controllers. A narcissist is a control freak. You cannot do anything that is beneficial without asking them. Even when you come up with an attempt, maybe to become successful somehow, somewhere, without keeping them in, they can work so hard such that you fail until when you recognize that you need their support. So a Machiavellian doesn't want to, a narcissist doesn't want to lose the leading spot. They always want to be admired in each and every space. I'll give an example, maybe that I can get a little bit of a clear difference between the two of them. Now, they are all highly gifted people. So a Machiavellian so much thrives on power. They want to be in power. Now, power is they are bossy people. Now, a narcissist wants to be admired emotionally. So this is a person that so much wants to be felt even when they are not present. So when he's a leader, he sets up a working space or a working environment that cannot thrive without them. So it is technically set up to empower them, not to empower an organization to grow, but to empower that specific individual to thrive. So that by the time they get out, that organization can collapse. And because they're highly gifted, by the time the setup is happening, no one can realize. People can get even to know after 10 years that was just set up. Yes. Wow. This is the funny thing. As you explain all these traits, my mind is thinking about people. Sadly.
Yes, no, that's
the people I've related with, or the different people I work with, and you're thinking, oh.
No. By the way, all of us are narcissistic at some level.
Right.
Yeah. Narcissism is what we would call a little bit of selfishness.
Right.
All of us have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies, but they vary. They vary. Now we are talking about a highly narcissistic individual.
Right.
Yes, but all of us are a little bit narcissistic somehow, somewhere.
Interesting.
Yes.
In case you're just joining the show, we are looking at the dark tetrad in places of work and looking at personalities who are narcissistic, Machiavellian, and we're going to go on and on. We do have to look at sadists and psychopaths as well. These are people we interact with in the places of work. And the truth is you can't keep on hopping from job to job in the name of people are hard. At the end of the day, we have to learn how to work around certain characters of people. And this is why Dr. Semalulu Charles Keck is here to help us understand personalities and even how to go about them as we achieve our own goals as to why we are in a particular place. Be part of the conversation, 0709-602. That is by sending a WhatsApp message, and we'll be engaging you in just a bit. Now let's look at the sadists. Who are they, or what is their nature? No,
a sadist is a person that so much attains pleasure by inflicting pain on others. Yeah, now that's a little bit of an extra
That's extreme.
We refer to him as a sadist or a masochist. Now this is a person that thrives on the pain of others. Now, you can even start looking at these traits at infancy. You can see how kids, the Baganda have a word called olugono. These are kids that you really want to hurt others. They don't want to hurt themselves, but they like it when the rest are crying. Yeah, these can be a little bit of the bullies at school. This can be a little bit of the bullies at school. So this is a person that so much thrives by seeing others suffering. And the suffering can come in so many ways. It can be emotional suffering. And they can set it up because they know exactly how to trap you there. Remember I told you one of the biggest, common pattern in all the dark tetrad traits, they are all highly gifted people. So they set you up without even knowing. So when you're thriving, when you are crying emotionally, when you are suffering psychologically, even in pain, even physically, they can come and inflict a lot of physical pain on you. So that's how they thrive. Their ego or their energy so much gets boomed up when they see someone tortured. So they set it up for you. That is the person who doesn't want to see you peaceful. You can pretend that, okay, you can act to be peaceful, but for them, they know exactly how to trigger you out. Even when they see problem that you're getting a little bit bigger, better. So they have emotional triggers that they set you up and put you where you're supposed to be. But it's hard for you. By the way, this is the basis of domestic violence in places of at home. And it's a little bit hard for you to detect. Most of the domestic cases problems, by the time someone comes out and speaks out, they've suffered for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years. Why? Because a sadist sets you up, and then you start blaming yourself for that. And the moment they trap you in there, you can't really step out.
Right.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you start feeling that maybe it is your own making. Not knowing that you are just set up. So it is a continuous pattern that they can drag you in. So a sadist is a person that thrives on your pain, emotionally, psychologically, and when it gets physical, that's the highest level. So they start by setting your emotions. They start by setting you emotionally. And how do you set someone emotionally? Is by rewarding them. And by nature, human beings can sustain pain at a given period of time. That's one of the biggest challenges that we have as human beings. Why? Because what you have, most especially women, because women are so much gifted with high emotional pain receptors. Women receive more pain more than men, but they can also sustain and consolidate that pain more than men. So it's hard for them to step out of that game because there is an emotional justification. They even start craving for it. But this is not your own making. Someone set you up there.
Craving.
Yeah.
Is it
you start craving for the pain because...
Is it the statement we usually hear of women who say that if the man does not beat me, he doesn't love me? because I find it toxic and awkward. I've never understood that statement. I find it very toxic and awkward. But now that you're explaining that there are receptors...
Yeah, women can tolerate pain. By the way,
not to that level.
Oh my God!
Me.
You really don't.
No.
The rate at which a woman can tolerate pain is beyond measure. And
not me.
Like
you beat me.
No, actually.
And I'm like, it's how you love me. No way.
I think let me give you an example.
All right, please.
What's more painful than giving birth?
Yeah, of course, because it's nature.
Thank you so much.
It's God-given, but being beaten is not God-given.
If you can sustain the pain of giving birth, what about a slap?
No way. That's not God-given. Doctor, I beg to disagree. God gave me the warmth to really push that child out.
Thank you so much.
But being beaten, he never gave me the skin to be beaten.
Now there's something that you're fighting, but I just want you to listen to what I'm trying to say.
All right, please, go ahead.
What is more painful than giving birth to a woman? Like, what's more painful?
What is more painful?
Yeah.
I think
the labor pains and the 9 months period that you carry that baby. So slap is nothing.
It is something.
No, I'm not advocating.
Right.
Yo, don't look at me as if I'm advocating.
Right.
But I'm trying to justify this. So when a woman is slapped in most cases, and because women always want to improve men, there is that natural instinct or natural trait amongst women. They're like, hey, he will get better. So they keep on accommodating all those problems.
I sometimes think that it's society that, because if you're a mommy's boy, I'm not your mother. Yeah. I'm your wife, not your mother. So it matters of your manners, and it's your mother to do that job, not me.
I don't want to start World War III here. But what I was trying to put forward here is that when it comes to emotional bearing, women bear more pain.
Right.
Because even their nervous system is built for that. You know, there is a lot of scientific evidence, right? We can forget about the social setups and all that. But when it comes to pain retention or sustaining pain, women are more gifted than men.
Right.
Like,
now let's look. Yes,
because of that background, a sadist can be in a position to see through that, and then they set you up there to the extent that you can even start craving for that pain yourself, because it becomes your new identity.
I've still found that unbelievable. Craving is it's a whole other level. But let's look at psychopaths.
Now,
what is the
now a psychopath is the highest manipulator, most especially in terms of IQ.
Right.
Now, psychopaths, they have a little bit of detachment from what you call their emotional awareness.
Okay.
I mean, their emotional experiences. So for them, they set you up at the higher part of the brain. We talked about the levels of the human brain last time here. And we said the human brain is made up of 3 levels. The upper part is what you call the neocortex or the frontal lobe. The second part is what you call the the emotional brain or the chemical brain. And then the last part is what you call the limbic brain. Now, a psychopath sets you up psychologically, mentally. Like they give you a reason for you to listen to them or for you to accommodate them, right? After setting you up with a little bit of some logic, they give you a statement, right? And then you take it in logically, it makes sense. And then they start steering up your emotional stability towards that. So they start creating a person they want to create in there. Now, when it comes to doing a little bit of weird things, most especially becoming serial killers and all that, most of those people are rated to be psychopaths. Right. That is a person that can carry out an experiment on a human being that they know exactly what they want to have, but because they have a specific goal they want to achieve. You understand? So for them, they beat you up logically, and then they make you start demanding for that at an emotional level. So a psychopath can get the entire human brain at 3 levels, and they control it. Most of them, their IQ is beyond 150. Most of us, we cannot even understand them. Now, all these 4 tetrads that we just talked about, all these are highly gifted people, profoundly gifted people. But because most of us cannot match them mentally, that's why you cannot recognize them. But you walk into an organization, you can see. Right. You can even see from the set of the roles. You can see from the organizational culture that this one is led by a Machiavellian. This is led by a narcissist. From the conversations you can have with them, from the vision boards they put up, it's very, very evident. Right. So we came up here just because we want to equip people with this knowledge so that they can get to now thrive.
Right, and then when you know something, you're able to beat it at the end of the day. Knowledge is power. Yes. Now, we are talking about the dark tetrad, Doctor, and we've looked at the different personalities in this dark tetrad. That is the narcissist, the Machiavellian, the sadist, and the psychopath. Yes. But what exactly is the dark tetrad? Now,
when you're looking at personality traits, there are some theories that we have that define that in terms of human understanding and all that in psychological classes. The first personality trait that the theory that we have, it was brought about by a man called Plato, and then Hippocrates. We talked about a sanguine, a choleric, a phlegmatic, a melancholy, and then after that we talked about what called the big 5 traits. You know, the conscientiousness, oceanness, neuroticism, agreeableness, and all that. Now, after studying the 2 theories, there emerged some characters that could not be explained by the 2 theories. So that's why someone was like, no, we need to look at these theories independently. So what we call the dark tetrad, we are referring to some extreme kind of, we don't want to refer to it as a mental disorder because there is no neuroscientific backup for what we're talking about here. But we're talking about a little bit of some extremities in our own personalities that were not defined by the first 2 theories, but they also reside and live amongst us.
All right.
Yes, please.
Now, looking at these personalities, when they are defined on the onset, it sounds like, oh my God, that's a lot of work I cannot handle. So how do I put it? If someone realizes that they are any of these 4, can anyone have all the 4 in one person?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So if anyone realizes that they are one of these 4, what are they supposed to do with themselves? Do they continue on and hurt people, or do they help themselves? Does the information purpose to help them become better versions of how they should engage with society?
Definitely, our goal is to have peace and to live in a pacific environment. We want to live in a pacific way with our people. We don't want to live in entanglements and all that. Now, if someone gets to know that I am a Machiavellian, in most cases, you must be in a position to realize that your highest level of existence is by manipulating people. And because of this, human beings, not so much, they don't want, all these people that we talked about, you can refer to them as users. We can refer to them as users. But in order to live with each other in harmony, we must be in a position to realize that human beings are not property. Human beings are not here to be used. You know, we are not here to use each other. We are here to live in harmony. So the importance of this kind of communication is to let people know that even when you have a little bit of an extreme, maybe of a psychopath, in order to live with others, because at the end of the day, if people get to know about all this, they can start shrinking away from you. Because no one would like to live around with a sadist. Definitely. And you can even hurt people. Actually, 90% of the people that are locked up in most of these prisons, most of them go by the dark tetrad. Now, because they are highly selfish personality traits, they always end up doing things that are considered unlawful. Because for them, at the end of the day, what they want is their goal. How they get this goal doesn't so much matter about the rest. Now, because of that, they are certain, most of them become lawbreakers. You understand? Right. So definitely you don't want to be locked up your entire life. So when you get to understand that this is the kind of personality that you have, there are so many steps that we can do to ensure that at least you bring it a little bit close. You cannot change yourself 100%. Maybe you can just channel the energy that how can I use it in a more effective way for the betterment of the lives of the people that I care about.
All right, and we are going to look at those channels in just a bit. But more tributes continue to come through as we commemorate the life of King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, who passed away yesterday at a young age of 24 years. Good morning. It's so sad that our king passed on. May he be blessed in heaven. May his soul rest in peace, King Oyo. This is Azi. Thank you so much for pouring in your tributes. And at this point, allow us also take a trip or a look at a video where he confessed that he was a born-again Christian. Good morning.
Of God taking place in the kingdom of God. I always say Toro kingdom belongs to the King of Kings. Because he is the King of Kings. You're gonna make me shout. Yeah, I'm a king, but I know who my boss is. Come on, and he's my king as well. So I always declare and decree that Toro Kingdom belongs to God because he is the King of Kings and he is the Lord of Lords. His ways are much higher than our ways. You can't explain what God can do for a city, a country, a community, an individual. You can't explain it because it's just unexplainable, but it's amazing. Amen. But we serve an amazing God, and I am proud to be a born-again Christian. I'm proud of that, and that's something I know no one can take away from me ever, and I talk about my God, so proudly, in public, whether if it's to a believer or non-believer, it doesn't matter, because I know there are so many people out there who don't have the kind of relationship that we have with God and who are yearning for that kind of relationship with God.
All right, and as the Bible says, King Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and without him, we cannot access the Father in heaven. King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV was a born-again Christian. As proudly as you've watched the video, he has said, that means that he is with his king, the King of Kings, and he is in a much better place. That gives comfort, that he is to enjoy eternal life with his Creator and not in Gehenna, as the story is and as the truth is. Do continue to pour in the tribute as we continue to commemorate his life, celebrate his life, and pay tribute to him. That is King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, who passed away yesterday. Continue on to 0709602592. That is by WhatsApp as you pay your tribute. We'll receive them and be reading them, of course, as you engage in the conversation that we have in studio right now. And we're looking at the dark tetrad. That is the four dark personalities, if you should say, but personalities that have higher functioning IQs, intelligence quotients, and how best they can be put to use and how best the rest of us, or the rest of everyone who's not them, can interact with them at that. I am with Dr. Semarulu Charles Cake, who is a specialist in personal development and leadership to help us navigate this. Doctor, we had stopped at one understanding that there are any of these types, and how best they should reserve themselves into the good side of things. So you are giving us the steps or the nuggets they should tap into to achieve and bring out the best of them, as opposed to ending up in jail. Okay. But
maybe let me first give you some examples that at least known out there. Right. There was a gentleman that led Germany. He was called Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler. I saw that coming.
He led Germany, I think, from 1933 up to 1945. Now, we want to know, how did Hitler change the entire German society to believe in him? Hitler was a psychopath. Psychopath. He was born in Austria. And now, most of these traits, or most of these dark traits, they are so much made up in our own growth and development. His father was a soldier. So he used to beat him. Actually, each and every time Hitler would be beaten, he would go and sit down in a cemetery by himself. This is a boy of 6, 7 years. When he was around 13, he crossed and went to Austria, and then he becomes a soldier. Now, most of the people that fought with him in World War I, that is 1914 to 1918, so much he wrote a lot about him. Now, by the time he wrote one of the biggest books, it's called the Mein Kampf. You know, Mein Kampf, if you good reader, should read about this book. You would so much get to understand how great this guy was. He was very, very gifted. Actually, one of the biggest quotations from that book, the Mein Kampf, is said, "What lack for leaders that people do not think." I don't know if you can relate to that kind of quotation.
Right.
What lack for leaders that people do not think.
Right.
Now, that's Hitler in the Mein Kampf, 1928. But this is what I'm trying to show you. He changed the entire German and made them force and look at one enemy, and that enemy were the Jews, right? The Gypsies and the black people. They used to refer to them as the Rhineland bastards. Now, Hitler changes the entire German, and the entire German believes in him as a human being. The entire German almost had his own personality. You know, it's a little bit of that. So the people that we're talking about have the power to change. They have the power to build a cult against them. I would give so many Ugandan examples, but let me keep it in German.
Right.
But the point is that because these people are highly gifted, they know how to manipulate people, and they can build a character. They can build a following. They can build a little bit of a spiritual kind of follow-up with them and their own direction. Actually, people say in 1930s, by the time Hitler was testing his army, he could just snap like this, and then he saw the flies from the storage building and it collapses down. That's how we would test their loyalty. Now, that's a person who knows that. The other person that was a little bit in that very angle was Joseph Stalin.
Right,
he takes over power in Russia 1925. Very, very terrible personality. He leads Russia up to 1953. So, because these people are highly gifted, because they are very important, and because their IQ is always up, in most cases, they end up in positions of power. I don't know if you really want to get...
You're mentioning some leaders away from Uganda. Let me keep it away from Uganda. And there are some out of Uganda that I'm thinking about right now. Of course, I know they have relations with Uganda, so let me keep quiet. But the countries you're mentioning...
This is why I was... Okay, this is why I brought it up. I just brought it up because I just wanted to show you how intelligent these people are.
Right.
So most of us cannot match with them in terms of their IQ. Now, there was a gentleman who was called Carl Penzuram. I don't know if you heard about our story. He's called the American darkest boy, Carl Penzuram. Now, he was a rapist. He did sodomy. He was an arsonist. And he did a lot of other things. But most of the people he killed were Negro boys, the black boys. He would burn churches. He would burn schools. So that was a typical psychopath. Now, these are people that do a lot of things. Now, just because when you get used to in a dysfunctional relationships, you think that that's how it's supposed to be. You know, most of us are within this kind of setups, but because we are not so much critical enough, or because we've not used or been so much into position to be in a better relationship. So most of the people can, when you talk about it, most people can take it. Now you really feel like someone is in that very position, but because they are captured. Two, because all these dark tetrads feed on our fears, most of these people tend to fear, right? But the biggest point is, we've said that most of the people that are locked up, if you really go and run a test, you're going to find that there are so many Machiavellians in prisons. Now, most of people that are locked up in solitary confinement, they are psychopaths. Because solitary confinement is way beyond. Now, they don't lock you up in general population.
Others,
they put you separate. Most of them are psychopaths. So the point that we have to notice that people need to get away of this, such that they can learn to live with others in harmony and in a peaceful setup. And one of the first steps that we can get to do about it is awareness. Yeah, when you get to know that you're hurting the people that you can get to know by the way. The only person that cannot get to know that they are hurting people, they are two people. Either when someone is autistic or when someone has what you call Asperger's syndrome.
You know, it's, there in us, before you even got to autistic, I was thinking about Elon Musk.
Yes. Yes, you can say a little bit of that. Actually, the difference between the people that follow in the category of the dark tetrad and people that fall in the autistic people is that the dark tetrad people are aware of what they are doing. They are doing it consciously. They are doing it intentionally. They are not sick. No, they are naturally created to have a little bit of a upper hand over others in that very way. An autistic person can hurt you without them being in, no, because they are emotional.
And that's the difference with Elon Musk, because he's autistic.
Yes, so they are emotional, and the social kind of connection is not so much wired like that of normal human beings.
Right.
So when you are dealing with an autistic person, you don't have to look at them as psychopaths or Machiavellians. No, for them, they need help. They need serious medical support somehow, somewhere. But a Machiavellian knows exactly what they're doing. A psychopath is aware of what they are doing. Right. A sadist is aware of what they are doing. So we don't have to mix up the two.
Indeed.
Yes.
Very interesting conversation with Dr. Charles Semalulu Kek, who is a specialist in personal development and leadership. And we're looking at the dark tetrad, looking at personalities, especially in the spaces of work, that come off as narcissistic, come off as Machiavellian, come off as sadists and psychopaths, and it's always difficult to deal with them or handle them. But from what he's sharing today, this morning, I think we now can see the people we've interacted with, the clashes we've had. And when it comes to the place of work, you do not just play with money, yeah? At least I think this is where the whole idea or the whole conversation of toxic places of work now comes from, because these people are ruling and they are making life difficult.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it becomes a very toxic workplace, which is not good for mental health at the end of the day, because we're also seeing a lot of mental breakage in the places of work, in homes, at that, and indeed knowing a way to go about it is very profound.
Can I interject?
Yes, please.
Yeah, a little bit of most of the mental health challenges that we have, they come in because people are poorly fed. Most of the mental health challenges that we have in Africa, they don't come out because of the torture. They come out because people are not gifted mentally. And the first gift that you can give your body is good food.
Right.
No, we eat ultra-processed food from industries. Like, let me give you an example. To get something from an orange, to get that value, to get that vitamin that you can get from an orange, of late, these oranges that are manufactured or produced without seeds, you need to take 8 oranges. To get the content that you would have gotten from an orange. How many oranges do you eat?
You need to get the content.
An original orange, an indigenous orange, they are no longer available. If you move in most of the shopping malls in Uganda, right? So in order to get the content,
even in Owino.
Yes. In order to get the content, like the organic content from these oranges that we take, you need to take like 8 of them. So people are not having mental breakdowns and all that because
8 of processed, ultra-processed.
8 of all those processed, and no one can take them. So human bodies are weak.
Maybe through juice, you make juice.
Not really.
8 juice.
Still, because these are chemicals.
Okay.
These are chemicals. So one of the biggest challenges about mental health is poor feeding. Because the bodies are not immune enough, they are not equipped enough to deal with the challenges of the time. So even when people are aware that this is what causes mental health, when people are poorly fed, really, you're not going to. We are actually, the World Health Organization predicted that the next pandemic we are going to have is going to be a mental pandemic. I'll give an example. During the pandemic in Italy, people were committing suicide. People are committing suicide in the streets in Rome, not because they were poor people, but because they could not contain the pressure. So one of the biggest challenges that is bringing mental health breakdown in our society is because our bodies are not well equipped. And the equipment, I'm talking about the food that we have. For you to get the nutrients that you need from an original orange, you need to take like 10 to feel like your body has taken in what's supposed to take in. So it's not so much about our incapabilities as human beings. It's about food.
Interesting.
Yes. So now, that is a different angle from what you can hear.
Right.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, I don't know what it would be nice to hear from mental health experts at that, to chip into this as we learn, unlearn, and relearn together. You are watching UBC TV. Good morning, Uganda, the Friday edition. And we're looking at the dark tetrad. That is the personalities that come off as heavy and dark and mean, if you could say. But their strengths, of course, and how they can navigate, as well as how the rest of everyone around them can navigate, staying with them, especially in the places of work. But at the same time, we continue to pay tribute to King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rukidi IV, who passed away yesterday. Omukama aturinze Do share your tributes to 0709-602-592. We are going to read those tributes, indeed, in just a bit. Let's continue celebrating his life because we are comforted by the fact that he is in a much better place of eternity. And as he said that he was proudly born again, a born-again Christian, that means that if the loved ones or everyone who loved him is born again, they are going to see him at one point in life when their day also comes. But the conversation does continue with Dr. Charles K. Semalulu on the dark tetrad. Now, we've looked at how they can be aware, although I've come to notice that not many of them want to be aware.
No, they are aware.
The opportunity, the awareness, I mean, is the awareness of, you know, you're hurting people and you need to change. Many of them do not want accountability.
Yes.
At least from my experience, I've interacted with quite a number, quite a bit, and many of them, in as much as you're willing to forgive and move on, but is it Isaac Newton's law that for every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction, right? But for them, that doesn't seem to apply. That for everything you do, there must be a repercussion, whether you want it or not. And the repercussion is accountability. Do you want to get better? Or do you want to... So I've noticed that a number of them don't want accountability. They run away from accountability.
Because it's beneficial.
Right.
Because it's beneficial to them. Otherwise, why would you give away your superpowers?
So that means there's no will.
No, definitely.
To be better.
Definitely. Now it starts from the other person.
Right.
The only weapon, one of the greatest weapons that we can have is love as human beings. If you really love this person, you really don't want to see them hurt. You understand? So if you approach them, back that way, the moment you start a conversation, they already know what you're telling them. Why? They beat you mentally. They're better than you at other times. So one of the biggest challenges you can ever have is talk to people that have addiction. Now, most of these people are not acting like that because they really want. Most of them are acting like that because they are very, very intelligent. Now, let me give you about two conditions. People that are so much taken up by the dark tetrad, they have what you call a system that is a little bit uncommon. I don't know if you've studied about it in primary. It's called what you call the endocannabinoid system. Now, the human body can manufacture cannabis by itself. In other words, your body has marijuana in its system. People that smoke a lot, their system is not operating well. That's why the body craves for it. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. No. Yeah. If people that smoke a lot, that do the pipe and use most of those, toxic drugs and all that, their endocannabinoid system is somehow blocked. So the body craves for it. So that's why they take it from the outside. In other words, the body manufactures it itself. It is a very important, it's a very important part of our own lives. So the point that I'm talking about is that these people are highly gifted. And because most of us fail to understand them, they end up becoming addicts in most cases. And if you really want to see how smart these people are, talk to an addict. You understand what I'm talking about. They are very sharp. They know exactly what they are doing, and they know exactly how to stop. But because what we call a personality doesn't form in a day, this is not a habit someone picks up in a day. No, it is part of them. So how you approach them should be a little bit very, very professional. Because the moment you come to them like you are trying to force change on them, they can see through you. And definitely they will take it personal because they feel like you've declared war to them. So you have to be aware that this is not something that has just come up in a day or two. No, it is something that grows with them. In other words, by the time you get to know that you're married to a psychopath or your boss is a Machiavellian, the man is 45, the man is 35, you really can't take them in 6 weeks or 6 years. So you just have to be aware and you continue having conversations about it. Continue telling them how hurt you are. Continue telling them how painful it is for you to work with them. Most especially, they can instigate, they can start change from themselves when they get to know that people they care about are getting hurt in most cases. Now, that's why most of the businesses that have been taken up by siblings or by kids collapse. Let me give you an example. The father is a Machiavellian. He puts up a company, right? And a choleric or a sadist, someone takes it over. They can't match up the traits, the personality traits that so much worked so hard to engineer this very system. That's why most of the businesses collapse when the proprietor or the person that initiated it dies away. Right. Why? Because this person sets up the entire system in their own favor.
Interesting.
Yes. So in most cases, what you have to understand is that we should always communicate out, speaking out. But sometimes when you're speaking out to sadists, should be aware that they will respond. And most of them respond physically.
Right.
Yeah, you tell them that you're hurt, they can respond by beating you up. They can respond by suspending you. They can respond by there are so many responses, because at the end of the day, for them, they look at it as if it's a personal kind of attack. You've declared war.
Now,
so when you open up a conversation, be ready. These people can retaliate. They can, because they don't want that personality that they've created disorganized. So they respond.
Now that's, I don't know if it's a doctor speaking, but as I get to your comments, it feels like, sounds like a place of no hope at all. But we are with Dr. Charles Semalulu Clark in studio. He is a specialist in personal development and leadership, and he's speaking with us about the dark tetrad, and that is people who are narcissistic, or people who are Machiavellian, or people who are sadists or psychopaths. We deal with such manner of people every now and again as personal traits that they carry. And especially in the place of work, we want to know how to navigate dealing or handling such people. But Dr. Clark says that these are people, when you talk to them and it's in the talk of, man, that hurt me, you have to expect anything, either violence, some form of opposition. Hey, is there a hope? We'll be finding out in just a bit, but the tributes to the tributes to King Oyo continue on as we commemorate his life, celebrate his life. Very short life at that, but it is and has been a life of legacy. Allow me get into some of your comments, and we do have one here that says, thank you for the show. This is Villain Movers. We send, okay, I almost read you as villain movers, but it's Villain Movers. We send our condolences to the family of King Oyo Nyimba Kabamba Iguru Rokidi IV. Could you talk about Okelo, who killed kids in Gaba Children Daycare? Where does he follow or fall? Thank you once again. Dr. Clark, could you speak into that? Where does Okelo fall? Okelo
would be a psychopath. Okelo would be in that category. He would be a psychopath, but we really have to be in a position to study him for some time, because even a Machiavellian can do something like that.
Right.
But the most trait that can push people at doing something like what Okelo did would be a psychopath or a sadist. Because at the end of the day, human beings, not even human beings, even animals cannot hurt kids. They really, can't hurt the kids. But someone who commits suicide, attacks the first kid, the second kid, and the third kid, there's a little bit of sadism and a little bit of psychopath. There's a little bit of a relationship in between there that brings that around.
Interesting. Good morning. This is Simbwa Hassan. And are people with the dark tetra traits born like that? Or sometimes society can make them become that?
Yeah, both factors are real. But most of these traits that we are talking about, they are born, they are inborn. Most of these traits, they are inborn. But when they find a supportive environment, I'm referring to an environment that encourages such behavior. The environment that encourages such behavior. I'll just give you an example of Adolf Hitler, that was born by a father who was a Machiavellian, and he was a little bit so intense when it came to battering up Hitler. That's why it was a little bit easier for Hitler to fit into the military, because that's where his personality would thrive. So there is a little bit of biological factors that bring to that, but still environment or experiences during the process of human growth and development can as well contribute to that.
Right, very interesting at that. Hi, I'm Ruth Mary. What happened to King Oyo Iguru? Well, Ruth Mary, the king of Toro, passed away yesterday at 10 p.m. And yes, we are paying tribute to him. He died at the age of 34, born in 1992, and passed away yesterday. So we are celebrating his life, a life lived. But young, but left with a legacy, and his legacy does continue on. Thank you so much for following the show and watching the program. Hi, this is okay, just a hi to you too. Thank you for being on the show. Good morning. It's a dark sky in Toro, and the whole world for the passing on of our King Oyo. He was a champion in the fight against HIV, promoted youth involvement in management of kingdom affairs, and King Oyo made us proud internationally. The people of Toro will always celebrate you. May his soul rest in peace. This is Victor. All right, we continue on with the comments. And Kisa Francis, thank you for the show. Julie, may the soul of the King of Toro rest in eternal peace. We celebrate him because he's born again, and I thank God for him. All right, good morning, Obitre Vasco from Maracha District. We're sorry to hear suddenly the death of King Oyo. Let his soul rest in everlasting peace. Again, we continue to miss King Oyo indeed. And good morning, hi, nice Friday. This is Sol Wambale. Nice Friday to you too. Thank you so much for being on the show. Good morning, UBC. Dwight here. Could the doctor explain the disadvantages or advantages of being the opposite of all the 4 dark tetrad? Thanks a lot in advance. Over to you, Dr. Clark.
I didn't get that well.
That could you explain the disadvantages or even the advantages of being the opposite of a narcissist, of being the opposite of a Machiavellian, being the opposite of a sadist, and being the opposite of a psychopath? What are the advantages and disadvantages? Now,
most of the successful people, most of the people that are successful in so many spaces of work, so many fields of study, most of these people have these personalities. Now, in order for someone to get something or to get to achieve what they want in life, you must have a little bit of a Machiavellian kind of trait. You must have a little bit, because the Machiavellian is a person that doesn't give up. You must have a little bit of sadism in you to be in a position to contain the painful experiences, you know, within your own, you know. So what I'm trying to say is that we don't have a good or a bad trait. No, so long as it's helping you thrive and survive very, very well. It only becomes disadvantageous when it's hurting others. Yeah, so I don't want to say that we have a good personality and a bad personality. No, because at the end of the day, everyone is gifted differently.
Right.
But it becomes dangerous when it gets out of you and then you start attacking or hurting the people that you're supposed to care about.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Good morning, I'm watching from Barara. Yeah, it's too absurd for the loss of our King Oyo Nyimba. What could have killed Oyo Nyimba? Really something fishy. Oh well, at the end of the day, what we know is that he passed away, and we continue to celebrate him. Thank you so much for watching and following the program. Do continue sharing your tributes as we read them, but also we do have Dr. Clark Semalulu, Dr. Cake Semalulu Charles, who is a specialist in leadership as well as personal development, speaking to us about the 4 dark tetrads, that is being a narcissist and Machiavellian, as well as a sadist or a psychopath. Good morning, UBC. Thank you for the program. This is Bernard from Gulu City. So to deal with narcissists, it's through stopping to feed their needs for emotional reactions, set firm limits, and use short neutral response. Doctor, do you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. You have to set a little bit, because now it's talking about how can we protect ourselves from such. But you have to understand that we're talking about a situation when this person is your boss. How do you interact and how do you limit the interaction with your boss somehow, somewhere? And we have a problem. All these personalities can somehow be all these can be somehow dealt up with if the environment is highly professional. Because if the environment is highly professional, you understand your job description, you know what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed to do it, right? So the only way, the most important way or the most legal way on how we can deal with them is by setting up a highly professional working environment, such that everyone gets to know what they are supposed to do, and that is kept, and the contracts are signed, such that the job description is clear and it protects everyone. So we should go a little bit formal in our workspaces. That's how we can be in a position to contain all those personalities in a work environment.
In other words, boundaries, have
yes.
boundaries. Does this apply to relationships though? Because it becomes tricky dealing with these human beings.
Now, when it comes to relationships, it's something else. It's something else, because at the end of the day, we have what we call human rights and freedom. Yeah. We have what we call human rights and freedom. You don't have to die in a relationship because someone is a provider. At the end of the day, any human being should get to understand that there are limits of containing pain at the end of the day. And people should not die just because someone is a provider. No, there are so many organizations, the police can be in a position to support. You really can't die because someone is a provider and all what they're doing is to continuously cause or inflict pain on you. Right. No, there are so many ways people can seek out for support, most especially from the police, because at the end of the day, they are sadists that have been separated from their families physically, but they continue sustaining them financially. Because at the end of the day, sadism is just an attribute, but at the end of the day, if this person is a parent, they have to continue meeting their obligations, for instance, supporting the family. So this also goes out to the places of work. If you feel like maybe the boss is somehow putting you in a position that is making you uncomfortable, then you can speak out. In most cases, you will go out to human resource offices, or you can even speak out to the police at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, what matters is you being a normal person, where, with your rights and responsibilities respected and met the way they are supposed to be met.
That is if your human resource office is not compromised. Anyways, Dr. Keck, you have an event on guiding us on how to deal with the dark tetrons. Yeah. Please take us through that.
Yeah, every Sunday we host a masterclass. Every last Sunday of the month. So this time around we are at Landista Hotel Machindye. The class is basically about understanding what we call the dark tetrad at places of work, in relationships, even amongst the kids. You might have a kid that is a psychopath as early as this. The traits start showing up, most especially at 12 years, 13 years. How can we be in position to help young people understand and live in harmony with others? So basically, the event is about explaining and giving a little bit of a scientific discussion. It's happening at Landisa Hotel this Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. in the evening.
And I see something interesting there, that know the dark, protect the good, refuel the positive. Yeah. Very interesting.
It's a little bit of a psychotherapeutical kind of approach. Right. Because at the end of the day, like we've said, we've not so much talked about how can people deal with this, and how can the so-called dark tetrad that have so much taken up so many people, how would you get to know, and how would you help yourself? Because no one would like to live with you if you're a psychopath. Everyone would like to run away from you. Right. So when you get to know that this is who I am, what are some of the opportunities, what are some of the support centers where I can go, such that I can try and learn to live in a pacific environment with the people that I care about. So that discussion that we are going to be having this Sunday, 4 to 6 at Landisa Hotel, Machindye.
All right, support centers is very, very key. And I can see on the poster there that the fee is 100,000 Uganda shillings for you to be able to access this profound, important information. We do thank you, Dr. Keck, for coming through and educating us on the dark tetrons. And be there this Sunday. It happens every last Sunday of the month. This Sunday is the same story, where you'll be mastering the dark tetrads in our humanity to help you navigate. And I love the know the dark, protect the good, refuel the positive therein. We close it here. And of course, Good Morning Uganda comes to the end. We continue to celebrate King Oyo. We continue to celebrate his life. We continue to pay tribute to him. For God and my country. Amen.
Years down the road, Oyo Nyimba is no more the toddler king who could clutch onto the royal garment of his mother in an official ceremony. He has grown into a tall and confident king.
I've been ready since the day I was crowned, so I think it shouldn't be a problem for me.
It is these young people that Oyo wants to get close to when he finally runs his affairs.
I think education is a very important thing, especially for the youth. You know, with that we can ensure that Torah has a bright future.
Mountain expedition. As we embark on this premiere of the King Oyo Renzori mountain documentary, let us be ever mindful of our responsibility to protect and preserve our environment through reasonable tourism promotion, vibrant conservation initiatives, and unbridled sincere government support in which we can create a sustainable future for Toro Kingdom, Uganda, and the entire world.
To emphasize that culture is not static. It is alive, dynamic, and youthful.
In his remarks, Omukama Oyo implored the young generation to embrace their cultural heritage, blending it with innovation and entrepreneurship.
African youth are not only the leaders of tomorrow, but innovators, creators, and change makers.
All of Africa. Welcome everyone.
Uganda's coffee story is an exciting phase through the government of Uganda-funded National Coffee Seed System project. The National Coffee Research Institute, NACORI, under the policy guidance of NARO, works with MAIF, Coffee Department, registered nursery operators, and farmer groups to deliver quality coffee seedlings to farmers. Introducing Next Wave, the next generation of coffee. Chituza Robusta coffee varieties with higher yields, drought tolerance, and resistance to diseases. As Uganda's coffee exports grow from 3.5 million to over 8.7 million bags, NACORI research is helping drive productivity, quality, and competitiveness. Beyond production, NACORI is unlocking new opportunities through coffee value addition, creating innovative products and higher incomes for farmers, processors, and entrepreneurs. By developing unique flavor profiles and world-class coffee innovations, NACORI is helping Uganda's transition from exporting volumes of coffee to exporting value. NACORI's innovations undergo a rigorous research process that makes them sustainable for the next generation. Drought-tolerant coffee varieties that are cultivated, planted in Uganda's drought-prone areas. NACORI, research, innovation, prosperity.
In Uganda, mornings don't begin with sunrise. They begin with courage. One man, one factory that has refused to stay